Okay, good morning to you all and welcome to this morning's class. Please, if you can hear me, raise your hand up as I've always done. So let me see your hand up if you can hear me. Okay, so a significant number of you can hear me. All right, so let's move on to the topic for today. So today we would continue with our discussions on the concept of elasticity. Right, so the last time we met, we started with the concept of elasticity and we defined elasticity as the responsiveness of a variable to a change in another variable. So specifically, we were looking at the elasticity of demand and then elasticity of supply. But our focus was on elasticity of demand first. Then when we are done, then we'll move on to elasticity of supply. Now, because there are so many factors that determines demand, so we can talk of so many elasticities, but we focus on three, which are the price elasticity of demand, the cross price elasticity of demand, and then income elasticity of demand. So what we did the last time we met was to look at the the own price elasticity of demand. So we know that that is a measure of how quantity demand respond to a change in the price of the good itself, and is obtained by the formula percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price of the commodity. And given that the demand curve is inversely, or it's a downward sloping curve or an inverse demand curve, the elasticity, that is the own price elasticity when calculated, should always be negative. But if we are interpreting it, we interpret it without a negative sign, right? So a good can be said to be relatively price elastic, relatively price inelastic, unitary, perfectly elastic, and perfectly inelastic. So for the relatively price elastic, it means that the own price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, but of course less than infinity. And if it's greater than 1, it means that the percentage change in quantity demanded as a result of percentage change in price is greater than the percentage change in the price. So percentage change in quantity is greater than the percentage change in price. Then we have relatively price elastic. Then if it is less than 1 but greater than 0, then we have the relatively inelastic. So in that sense, it means that the percentage change in quantity is less than the percentage change in price. And then we have unitary when it is equal to 1. So it means that the percentage change in quantity is equal to the percentage change in price. And then we have the two extremes, the perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic. So the perfectly elastic, you have the own price elasticity of demand being equal to infinity. So suggesting that the slightest change in price will lead to a very, very big change, huge change in quantity demanded. And then we have the perfectly inelastic. So that is when demand does not respond to price changes at all. Right? In that sense, the own price elasticity of demand when calculated would be equal to 0. Right. And then we looked at the graphs, the demand curves for the two extremes. So the demand curve for a product that is perfectly inelastic is vertical, and the demand curve for a product that is perfectly elastic is horizontal. So we looked at all that when we met the last time. Now today we'll continue from there. So today we are going to look at the other two elasticities of demand. That is, we'll look at the cross price elasticity of demand and then income elasticity of demand. So when we are done with that, we'll look at the price elasticity of supply, and then we can now start with consumer behavior. Right, so that's our task for today. So let's look at what cross price elasticity of demand is. So in explaining the factors that influences demand, one factor that we mentioned is the price of related commodities. Right, so price of related commodities in consumption. So the examples we used included Milo and Bonvita and some other examples as well. And then we can also have a torchlight and a battery and all that. So these are all price of related commodities, which could be substitutes or they could be complements. So it means that when there's a change in the price of a particular commodity, it affects demand for other commodities. But to what extent? As we asked in the case of home price. So to what extent? So to measure the extent to which the change in the price of one commodity affect the demand for another commodity, we use the concept of cross price elasticity of demand. So cross price elasticity of demand. So it is measuring how demand for a particular product respond to changes in the price of another product. So that's what we call the cross price elasticity of demand. Now, how is it obtained? It's obtained by the formula you have on your screen, which is a percentage change in quantity demanded of one of the goods or the good in question divided by the percentage change in the price of the other good. So percentage change in quantity demanded of the good in question divided by the percentage change in the price of the other good. So if you look at this formula, it's quite similar to the formula for finding the home price elasticity of demand. The only difference is that now the the denominator, which used to be, or which is the percentage change in the own price of the good for the case of home price elasticity of demand, is now percentage change in the price of good Y. That is, it is the change in the price of good Y that we expect would change the quantity demanded for good X. Right? So if you do this, you will then find the cross price elasticity of demand. Another way of finding it is to use the second formula on your screen. Now, if you remember, I told you from last week that the first formula on your screen can be simplified to the second formula on your screen. So the second formula on your screen will be the change in quantity demanded divided by the change in the price of the other commodity multiplied by the price of the other commodity divided by the quantity of the other commodity. Now one would ask, what should be the price and then quantity be? It should be the initial price and quantity. So the PY you see on your screen should be the initial PY. And then the QDX should be the initial quantity for X. So if you work it this way, then you will obtain the same answer as the first equation or the first formula, which is percentage change in quantity demanded of one commodity divided by the percentage change in the price of another commodity. Right. Now, in the case of home price elasticity, we noticed that when you calculate it, you always get negative. It always gives you a negative figure unless you are dealing with a given good. Now, for cross price elasticity, you can get a negative figure or a positive figure. So cross price elasticity of demand can be negative or positive, right? It can be negative or positive. Now, if it is positive, then it tells you that both commodities are substitute, right? So for instance, if I want to find the cross price elasticity for Milo with respect to a change in the price of Bombita. So I'm looking at the percentage change in quantity demanded for Milo divided by the percentage change in price for Bombita. Now, if the answer comes out to be positive, then I can say that Bombita and Milo are substitutes. So if the cross price elasticity of demand is positive, then the two commodities involved are substitute. But if it is negative, then the two commodities are complement. So please take note of this. So in other words, what we are saying is that we can use a cross price elasticity to determine the relationship between two commodities. Right? We can use it to determine the relationship between two commodities, i.e., whether they are substitutes or they are complement. Now, if it is positive, then they are substitutes. And if it's negative, then they are complement. If it's zero, then it means there is no relationship between the two commodities. If it is zero, right? If it is zero, it means there is no relationship between the two commodities, right? Okay, so there's an example that I will let us calculate, and then I'll probably send you more practice questions on these concepts of elasticities, right? So this is an example here. Suppose that when the price of Milo falls by 10%, the quantity of Bonvita demanded decreases by 5%. You have to find the cross price elasticity of demand, right? So you first of all look for is Bonvita whose quantity is influenced by the price of Milo. So it is going to be the percentage change in quantity demanded for Bonvita divided by the percentage change in the price of Milo. Although they are substitutes, so we can clearly see that these two commodities are substitutes, right? So it's going to be the percentage change in quantity demanded for Bonvita will be 5. That is minus 5 because it's a decrease over minus 10, which is also a fall. So the answer will give you 0.5. So it's positive, indicating that Milo and Bonvita are substitutes. Milo and Bonvita are substitutes. So you can try your hands on the second one. So you suppose that the price of torchlights increased from $20 to $30, and the quantity of batteries fall from 100 units to 70 units a day. Calculate the cross price elasticity of that. So you can even use the earlier formula, which is the percentage change in, so the quantity demanded is for batteries. So it's going to be percentage change in demand for batteries divided by the percentage change in the price of torchlight, right? And then you can work it out that way. Okay, so I saw a hand up, and then I've also seen one message in the chat dialogue. Let me go and check and then try and see if you can address it. Okay, so somebody has calculated it and then had 0.5. But there was a hand up. I think the hand has been lowered now. Okay, so The next thing I want us to look at is the income elasticity of demand. Right. So now, with the way we have explained on price elasticity of demand, the way we've explained cross price elasticity of demand, I think income elasticity of demand should be quite obvious to you. Right. So it is measuring how demand, quantity demanded, respond to the change in income. How does it respond to the change in income? Right. How does quantity demand respond to change in income? So income elasticity of demand measures the degree of responsiveness of a change in quantity demanded when when income changes, other things remain in the same, right? So how is it measured? It's measured using the formula you see on your screen. So income elasticity of demand can be obtained as the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in in income. So you can clearly see that in all formulas, all three formulas, that is for own price elasticity of demand, for cross price elasticity of demand, and then for income elasticity of demand, the numerator is always the percentage change in quantity demanded. So what differ is the denominator. So in the case of own price elasticity of demand, the denominator will be the percentage change in own price. If it is the case of cross price elasticity of demand, then the denominator will be the percentage change in the price of the other commodity. And if it is income, denominator is a percentage change in income. So those are the differences. And then again, we can use the second formula you have there to also estimate the income elasticity, right? So the Y and then the QD on the on the right hand side should always be the initial values. So the initial value of income and then the initial value of demand, quantity demand, right? And that will give you the same answer as the first one on top. Okay. Again, in the case of income elasticity, you can have it to be positive or negative. So it's only on price elasticity of demand, which is always negative. But for cross price elasticity of demand, it can be positive or negative. And that helps us to tell the type of commodity we have. So if it is positive, sorry, that help us to tell the relationship in the case of the cross. But in the case of income, again, it could also be positive or negative, and that help us to tell the type of commodity that we are dealing with, whether the commodity is a normal good or an inferior good. Now, if you find that income elasticity of demand is positive, then the commodity in question is said to be a normal good. If it is positive, it's a normal good. But if it is negative, then it is an inferior good. If you calculate it and then you get negative, then the commodity in question is an inferior good. Now, in addition to determining whether it's normal or inferior, it can also be used to tell whether the good is a luxury or a necessity. If it is positive but less than 1, it is positive but less than 1, then the commodity is said to be a necessity. Right, so please take that down. Note that if it is positive but less than 1, then the commodity is a necessity. So it is a normal good, all right, but it is within normal, it is a necessity, right? If it's less than 1. If it is greater than 1, then it is seen as a luxury. So it is still within normal, the income, but it is luxury because the income elasticity of demand is greater than 1. right? So there's an example on that here that I want you to take a look at. So I have some questions here. Let me look at it. So somebody's asking me a question. Okay, so the question is about whether if you're asked to find the price elasticity of demand, whether you'll be told to use a point or arc. I think I made this point the last time we met. So if you are not told that use a point or arc elasticity, stick to the first formula, which is the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price. But if you are told to do point or arc, then you can do that. But if you are not told, always stick to the first formula, right? If you are not told, always stick to the first formula. Okay. I think the person, that is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I hope you are okay now. Then I have another question. How do we calculate change in income? Nadia, I don't know if this is your first time of joining the class, but I have shown you how to find the percentage change in a variable. So we are going to use the example you see on your screen to explain that, but I have done that extensively. Get the recordings of the previous lectures and then listen to it or watch it. There are videos, so you watch it. I have explained all that before, but I'll do that again for you. And then I have another one from Samuel. So if income elasticity of demand is less than 1, then the commodity is a necessity. Samuel, the commodity is a necessity. So it is greater than 0. So it's positive but less than 1. Right? If it is positive but less than 1, then the commodity is a necessity. Positive greater than 1, then the commodity is a luxury. Right, Samuel? So positive less than 1, the commodity is a necessity. Positive greater than 1, the commodity is a luxury. Right? So quickly, let's take the example you have on your screen. So you are told that period 1, the quantity demanded for CD is 6, and then 8 in period 2. In period 1, income is 400, and then 600 in period 2. So you are asked to calculate the income elasticity of demand. So I would use, so in this case, it is not specified. No, so just go straight away and use the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in income. So now they are to find percentage change in income. It is the new value, that's the new income value, minus the old income value, and you divide the answer by the old income value and you multiply by 100. That will give you the change or the percentage change in income. So let me just switch to the whiteboard to explain this to you. So in this case, the percentage change in income will be equal to the new value of income, which in this case is 600, minus the old value of income, which is 400, divided by the old value of income, which is also 400. And then you can multiply everything by 100 to have it in percentages, right? So it means that it's going to be 200 over 400, which is 50%. So this can give us, this is 50%. And then you do the percentage change in quantity. So initially quantity was 6 and then it went to 8. So it's going to be 8 minus 6 over 6, and then you multiply everything by 100. So this will be 2 over 6. 2 over 6 is 33.33, right? So that gives you 33.33%. So you know that income elasticity, YP, will be equal to the percentage change in quantity, which is 33.33 divided by 50%. And the answer, I think, will be 0.66 if you do your calculations well. Right. So that's how you find the income elasticity of demand. So clearly here you see that it is positive. And being positive means that the commodity is a normal good. And it's also less than one. That means that it is a necessity. So a normal good and also a necessity. I don't know what this means. Some people are still joining. They're still finding difficulty to join, but they are using the same network, a link. Well, I don't know, honestly. So somebody is asking, yeah, we can have a situation where, well, income elasticity can be zero. Yes, it means that the demand for the commodity does not respond to income changes. So in reality, yes, you can get that in principle, where demand does not respond to changes in income. And that will give you an income elasticity of zero. Yes, in principle, you can get that. Right. No, when you have the answer, there's no need to add a percentage sign to it anymore. Right. When you have the answer, don't add the percentage sign. So because the percentages will cancel. Right. The percentages will cancel. So the answer, do not add a percentage to it. Okay. If it is zero, then we cannot, there's no name for it. We cannot say it is a necessity or a luxury. If it is zero, then maybe you might also want to think that maybe in a way it might be more necessity, right? So it means that it does not respond to changes in income at all. But there's no any name like for commodities that have income elasticity of being zero. So it cannot be, well, maybe you can still classify it as a normal because zero, so I say it's positive. Mm. You can still classify it as a normal good in a way, but there isn't any official name for it in economics. Okay, so that is fine. Yes, Roger, I think I mentioned that. So the answer that we have, which is less than 1, the commodity is a normal and then a necessity as well. So I made that point, right? Okay, so now let's go back to continue with our discussions. So that's how you calculate the income elasticity of demand, right? Now, I think I have done this with you, the determinants of price elasticity of demand, right? I remember I have done that with you. So I mentioned four determinants. Josiah. So yes, you can use any of the formulas. So you can use whether you can use the percentage change or use a change in quantity over change in income times income over quantity. Yes, you can use that. But note that if you're using that, the income over quantity should be the initial values. They should be the initial values, right? So the income over quantity should, but like I said, always use the percentage change formula. That is much easier and devoid of any problems. So always stick to that one to calculate all the elasticities, right? Okay. So as I was saying, the determinants of home price elasticity, I've already discussed that with you. So we mentioned the availability of substitutes, the proportion of income spent on the commodity, whether the commodity is a luxury or a necessity. And then the last one is the time frame, right? Whether it's in the short run or in the long run. So in each case, you'll be able to tell when own price elasticity will be elastic and when it will be less elastic. So for instance, if there are more substitutes for a particular commodity, that commodity is likely to be um, relatively elastic if there are more commodities for it. So more substitutes for it, then it's likely to be relatively elastic. If there are less substitutes, then it's likely to be relatively inelastic. In terms of proportion of income spent, the lower the proportion, the less elastic the commodity is. And then the bigger the proportion, the more elastic the commodity demand for the commodity is. In terms of necessities and luxuries, so necessities have a lower own price elasticity of demand because we cannot do without them, right? So therefore, we do not respond so much to price changes. Whilst a luxury, it has a higher own price elasticity of demand because we can do without it. And then the last one, which is a time framework. So in the short run, it is inelastic, but elastic in the long run, right? Okay. So that completes the discussion on the concept of elasticity with respect to demand. Now let's now shift our attention to the case of supply. And under supply, we are going to look at only one, which is the own price elasticity of supply, right? So the definition here is more or less the same for demand, but it's just that instead of demand, the focus is on supply now, right? So in the case of the own price elasticity of supply, then it is the measure of the responsiveness of quantity supplied to a change in the price of a good. So it is not quantity demanded as in the case of demand, but it's the quantity supply in this case. But of course, the price is the same. to a change in price, quantity, the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in price, that is for demand, and this is quantity supplied to a change in price, and that is for supply. Now, how do we obtain it? Same formulas, very similar formula, just replace the quantity demanded with quantity supplied. So the own price elasticity of supply is obtained as the percentage change in quantity supply divided by the percentage change in price. So the same formula, it's just that now replace quantity demanded with quantity supply. So percentage change in quantity supply divided by the percentage change in price. And then we can simplify that formula to obtain the equation that you have on your screen, which is also similar to the case of demand. It's just that now replace the demand with supply. So that will be equal to change in supply as change in quantity supply divided by change in price times price over quantity supply. Again, the price and quantity supply should be the initial values. They should be the initial values. So how do you interpret it? Now, given that the supply curve is upward sloping, anytime you calculate the own price elasticity of supply, you should get a positive figure. It can never be negative as long as the supply curve is upward sloping. Own price elasticity of supply can never be negative. Right. So if you get it as negative, then that should tell you that there is a problem. Now, how do you interpret it? So we can get the same interpretation as in the case of demand. So supply can be relatively elastic, it can be relatively inelastic, it can be unitary, perfectly elastic, or perfectly inelastic. Right? So it can be any of these. So if it is greater than 1, let me switch to the whiteboard to explain this further. Let me switch the whiteboard to explain that further. So let me clear this. So if it is, so the own price elasticity of supply. Now the good thing about this is that you don't need to worry about absolute values. So it's always positive, right? So you can just pick the figure without the absolute value. Oh, right. So I mean positive. There's no need about um doing or putting the absolute line around it. So if it is greater than 1, then we say supply is relatively elastic, right? So in that sense, it means that the percentage change in supply is greater than the percentage change in price, right? And then it can also be less than 1, but of course greater than 0. And that one we have relatively inelastic. Relatively inelastic. Now in this case, it means that the percentage change in supply is lower than the percentage change in price. Then we can also have it to be unitary, equal to 1. Of course, this will be unitary elastic. Unitary elastic. All right. So in that sense, it means that the percentage change in quantity supplied is equal to the percentage change in price. And then the last but two, the two extreme cases, we have this to be equal to 0, and that is perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic. Right? And then the last one, when it is infinity. So that one is perfectly elastic. Right? Now in this case, when it is perfectly inelastic, the supply curve is vertical. So in that sense, the supply curve is vertical. So no amount of change in price will change the quantity. And if it is infinity, the supply curve is horizontal. Right? Okay. So that's how you interpret the cross price elasticity, sorry, the own price elasticity of supply. Right? So any question now before I switched on to consumer behavior? Any question before I switch to consumer behavior? Okay, so I have a hand up. Samuel. Samuel, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
It says so with the supply, everything is the same as like demand, but it's just maybe the it's quantity supply and quantity demanded.
Exactly. That's what I was telling you, that the formulas are the same. Just replace quantity demanded with quantity supply. And the way it is also interpreted, the same thing. So there isn't much difference. If you understand the elasticity concept for demand, then you should easily understand it for supply as well. Okay, any other question, please? Any other question? If you have a question, you can raise your hand up, or you can do it through you can ask it using the chat dialogue. Any other question? Okay, so if you don't have any question, then for the sake of those people who you say are trying to join but are unable to join, let's log off and then I'll log on again so that we'll see if they will be able to join. I've seen that the number is going down. So let's do that and then we'll join again. So I am ending this meeting and then start the new one.